everyone. Thanks for joining us. The marvelous readers who will read their favorite poems in order of appearance are Corinne Conley, me, Harry Northup, instead of Deedles, who could not make it today, Ken Funsten, Carrie-Lynn Neales, Joe Safdie, and James Jeremias. Here's Corinne Conley.
Thank you, Harry. I'm going to start with some Native American wisdom from Joy Harjo. Rabbit is up to tricks. In a world long before this one, there was enough for everyone until somebody got out of line. We heard it was Rabbit fooling around with clay and wind. Everybody was tired of his tricks, and no one would play with him. He was lonely in this world. So Rabbit thought he would make a person. And when he blew into the mouth of the crude figure to see what would happen, the clay man stood up. Rabbit showed the clay man how to steal a chicken. The clay man obeyed. Rabbit showed him how to steal corn. The clay man obeyed. Then he showed him how to steal someone else's wife. The clay man obeyed. Rabbit felt important and powerful. Clayman felt important and powerful. And once that clayman started, he could not stop. Once he took that chicken, he wanted all the chickens. And once he took that corn, he wanted all the corn. And once he took that wife, he wanted all the wives. He was insatiable. Then he had a taste of gold, and he wanted all the gold. Then it was land and anything he saw. His wanting only made him want more. Soon it was countries. Then it was trade. The wanting infected the earth. We lost track of the purpose and reason for life. We began to forget our songs. We forgot our stories. We could no longer see or hear our ancestors or talk with each other across the kitchen table. Forests were being mowed down all over the world, and Rabbit had no place to play. Rabbit's trick had backfired. Rabbit tried to call the clay man back, but when the clay man wouldn't listen, Rabbit realized he'd made a clay man with no ears. The Summer Day by Mary Oliver. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass and the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down into the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll along the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last, and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? To Be of Use by Marge Piercy. The people I love best jump into work headfirst without dallying in the shallows and swim off with sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, the black, sleek heads of seals bouncing like submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves, an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward and to do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire must be put out. The work of the world is as common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Amorphous for wine or oil. Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real. Perhaps the World Ends Here by Joy Harjo. The world begins at a kitchen table. No matter what, we must eat to live. The gifts of earth are brought and prepared, set on the table. So it has been since creation, and so it will go on. We chase chickens or dogs away from it. Babies teethe at the corners. They scrape their knees under it. It is here that children are given instructions on what it means to be human. We make men of it. We make women. At this table, we gossip, recall enemies and the ghosts of lovers. Our dreams drink coffee with us as they put their arms around our children. They laugh with us at our poor falling down selves, and as we put ourselves back together once again at the table. The table has been a house in the rain, an umbrella in the sun. Wars have begun and ended at this table. It is a place to hide in the shadow of terror, a place to celebrate the terrible victory. We have given birth at this table and have prepared our parents for burial here. At this table, we sing with joy and with sorrow. We pray of suffering and remorse. We give thanks. Perhaps the world will end at a kitchen table while we are laughing and crying, eating the last sweet bite. And now I'll close with a poem from Frank O'Hara. I like that here at the Motion Picture Home. It's called Poem. Lana Turner has collapsed. I was trotting along and suddenly it started raining and snowing and you said it was hailing, but hailing hit you on the head hard. So it was really snowing and raining and I was in such a hurry to meet you, but the traffic was acting exactly like the sky. Suddenly I see a headline. Lana Turner has collapsed. There is no snow in Hollywood. There is no rain in California. I have been to lots of parties and acted perfectly disgraceful, but I never actually collapsed. Oh, Lana Turner, get up. We love you. Get up. And now, Harry Northup, take it away.
Thank you for such a beautiful reading. I love that Lana Turner poem and the table poem. I have a poem by Holly Prado, my late wife, to start off, and it was written right after we first met. Introductions, 15 Morning Love Songs, number 4. I said, I will never fall in love again. I will never, the falling, who could imagine? A woman old enough to be alone, a woman I will never. I took my body as its own tree rooted, the leaves turned red, mature. I said I will never fall in love again, glad, no womb but such bright leaves. Where did you come from? I will never. All you did was send a gift, meet me, we met. The park was full of oaks, but we lay on the ground, eager. Each blessing of skin, the red becomes vintage blood, lifts me farther than falling. I have not had such freshness. I cannot finish what I meant to say. That was late fall 1977. She wrote that. I have 3 poems by Anne Stanford. She was one of the best poets to come out of LA. She was my teacher at Northridge, California State University, Northridge. I studied verse and structural grammar with her. These poems are from her book, The Weathercock, 1966. The Messenger. I don't deny that I believe in ghosts, myself being one. No, not the ultimate last spirit, I mean, but this, a messenger, soft, late last night, half falling into sleep. I rose like smoke, up, curving past the window, floating, a gray cloud seaward, slow and pale. And then the wings. Did you hear the birds piling against your windows? A snow of wings, crowding and gentle, crying over and over, each with a single errand. Light cannot bring, nor ever my tongue would say. Archaic doves rushing your sleep and calling, crowding upon you, drifting and crying, love. The Sleeping Princess. I don't remember when I fell asleep, half up the stair, or dropped from a summer hill, or yawning into bedtime. But the dream so counterfeited me, I could not tell I was asleep. For in that sleep, the sun shone on my eyes. I rose and breathed the day, widened the doors, ran to the summer lawn, and spent the seasons prodigal as snow. Still, I was careful. There the sleeper lay. I took such journeys as were possible. My diary was complete, and it could show much was accomplished, and the days turned full. And yet, it was not real. I find the book dusty, unwritten in, for someone called and touched my cheek. The spendthrift years were done. Was it a kiss? I woke, and I was old. The last poem I'll read is The White Horse. Where is the white horse? I asked the toyin and the walnuts. The toyin was flowering. The walnuts lifted their leaves lightly like feathers. They were tossing and flowering, and the wind rustled a little. It was dark there under the trees. I tried the meadow. Where is the white horse? I asked the mustard and ryegrass. Have you seen her? The mustard was yellow and the rye going to seed. I could tell the old horse had been there. She had left her mementos. Where is the white horse? I asked the towies down by the corral. They looked at me sideways. One had already drowned in the water trough. The birds had little to say. The corral was deserted. I walked past the toyin and walnuts and over the meadow and up the hill. I knew the white horse had been there. She's lame, I said. She can't go far. And I went up the road to the next stable. There was only a black horse and a brown horse. They tossed their manes on the wind and kicked their heels a little. Where is the white horse? I asked. She was here yesterday. Our next poet, our next reader is a terrific writer, Ken Funsten.
Thank you, Harry. Everybody hear me? All right. Let's see if you remember this poem. Beautiful soup, so rich and green, waiting in a hot tureen. Beautiful soup, beautiful soup. Who for such dainties would not stoop? Soup of the evening, beautiful soup. Soup of the evening, beautiful soup. Beautiful soup, beautiful soup. Soup of the evening, beautiful, beautiful soup. Well, I don't really remember exactly, but I dare say Lewis Carroll might have been the first poet that I ever read. And that may be true for a lot of us. Once I started reading the stuff in school, I found this one fellow that they weren't teaching called Ezra Pound. And I really liked his early poetry a lot. The imagism, such as this classic poem of his, In a Station of the Metro. The apparition of these faces in the crowd. Petals on a wet black bough. But what Pound also taught me, and this was John Donne and Charles Bukowski taught the same things, was how to put your voice in other people's mouths and the dramatic personae that I think Pound got from Robert Browning. Here's one of early Ezra Pound called De Aegypto. I, even I, am he who knoweth the roads through the sky, and the wind thereof is my body. I have beheld the lady of life, I, even I, who fly with the swallows. Green and gray is her raiment, trailing along the wind. I, even I, am he who knoweth the roads through the sky, and the wind thereof is my body. Manos animum pinxit, my pen is in my hand. To write the acceptable word, my mouth to chant the pure singing? Who hath the mouth to receive it, the song of the lotus of Kumai? I, even I, am he who knoweth the roads through the sky, and the wind thereof is my body. I am flame that riseth in the sun, I, even I, who fly with the swallows. The moon is upon my forehead, the wind are under my lips. The moon is a great pearl in the waters of sapphire, cool to my fingers the flowing waters. I, even I, am he who knoweth the roads through the sky, and the wind thereof is my body. Here's the old Ezra Pound. These screens are hard to manipulate, aren't they? Okay. When I came to Los Angeles, I started hanging out at Beyond Baroque, and watching Harry read was a marvel. And Jack Grapes, who read for us last week too. But the two most influential poets on me personally were Lee Hickman and Kate Braverman. And I don't think in 8 minutes you can read Lee Hickman. But Katie was a vibrant lyric poet who had a hard life. Her mother used to call her early in the morning before 8 o'clock and say, "Kate, are you up yet? Are you writing?" And her father was the opposite, sort of self-absorbed and a gambler. And it all affected, Kate, of course, the child became a young rebel. So her first book was called Milk Run. And this is a poem called First Love, remembering Kate Braverman by reading it. I knew I could grow things, bare-legged without panties or shoes. My breasts were warm ridges suddenly glued to my chest. The unnamed place between my legs was a dark nest filled with red eggs. I was careful where I sat. The city opened, not boulevards with billboards, but yes, a garden. I rode buses at random to the peeling buildings bordering vacant lots, where old men sat with bottles on broken doorsteps. My feet were calloused from streets of softening tar, invisible vines. Mother called me wild. My Irish boyfriend from Georgia was 18 with a crucifix above his bed, a pawn shop ruby ring, and a blood-red Chevrolet. He bit my breasts and gave me cigarettes. We stole hubcaps in alleys and threw them into the sea. We broke and entered an abandoned motel and made love on a gutted cot on top of bloodstains while the rains fell. I did not know I was wounded then. I only remember his legs with long black curling hairs that seemed to be reaching for me, and the ruby ring on the nightstand. There are no names for these things. They do not wash away or erode. They are dark thorns in the flesh. Lie if you must. Call it what it never was. First love. Kate, who was taken from us way too young, went on to write novels, short stories. She taught, and I think it was in 1979 or 1980, she was reorganizing her poetry into a book that was titled Lullaby for Singers, published in 1980, I think. And this is the last poem in the book. And shortly after this, her father took his own life, Super Bowl Sunday at halftime. So again, other people have had very hard lives, and I appreciate that. Navigating by bells. It was a Sunday after rain. I could navigate by bells. The December clouds floated slow as if they too drank vodka and slept late. The air was lace. I held my long black hair with ivory combs. I wore perfume from Mozambique and a strand of amber pearls. Your eyes were blue, brilliant as sunstruck glacial ice, irresistible as the metallic flames of prized ore. You sat wrapped in a silk-lined quilt and read Pound out loud and whispered, "Your hair looks like wood." And the ground cracked. Noon was blue stars, blue asters, the Indian Ocean more blue than I asked for. The hills were immaculate as rows of just-washed terracotta pots. Trees stood engraved, unnaturally green, pagan, silent, hot. I thought it could end now. Close like a Chinese paper fan, flapping shut. Our next poet is Carrie-Lynn Neales, who is from Toronto, I'm told, and is at home on stage, typewriter, and yoga mat, and who volunteers here and who is in charge of the show Wandering the World Wide Web. Did I get that right?
You did. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's an honor to be here. I'm going to start with a poem by Mary Oliver called Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. Next, I'd like to read a poem I was forced to learn in college but grew to love deeply by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other, as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that passing there had worn them both about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden back. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And I'd like to close with one of my favorite writers and also a Canadian, Margaret Atwood, and her poem Morning in the Burned House. In the burned house, I am eating breakfast. You understand there is no house, there is no breakfast, yet here I am. The spoon, which was melted, scrapes against the bowl, which was melted also. No one else is around. Where have they gone to? Brother and sister, mother and father? Off along the shore, perhaps. Their clothes are still on the hangers, their dishes piled beside the sink, which is beside the wood stove with its grate and sooty kettle. Every detail clear, tin cup and rippled mirror. The day is bright and songless. The lake is blue, the forest watchful. In the east, a bank of cloud rises up silently like dark bread. I can see the swirls in the oilcloth. I can see the flaws in the glass, those flares where the sun hits them. I can't see my own arms and legs or know if this is a trap or blessing, finding myself back here, where everything in this house has long been over, kettle and mirror, spoon and bowl, including my own body, including the body I had then, including the body I have now as I sit at this morning table, alone, and happy. Bare child's feet on the scorched floorboards I can almost see. In my burning clothes, the thin green shorts and grubby yellow t-shirt holding my cindery, non-existent, radiant flesh, incandescent. And now I will pass the stage over to the lovely Joe Safdie.
Thanks, Carrie. I don't think I've ever been called lovely before, so I appreciate that. I thought I would go back for this occasion to when I first came into poetry more than 50 years ago. So the first poem I want to read part of is by William Carlos Williams, called Asphodel, That Greeny Flower. It's too long to read the whole thing, so pardon me while I skip around. Of asphodel, that greeny flower, like a buttercup upon its branching stem, save that it's green and wooden, I come, my sweet, to sing to you. We lived long together, a life filled, if you will, with flowers, so that I was cheered when I came first to know that there were flowers also in hell. Today, I'm filled with the fading memory of those flowers that we both loved, even to this poor, colorless thing. I saw it when I was a child, little prized among the living, but the dead see, asking among themselves, what do I remember that was shaped as this thing is shaped? While our eyes fill with tears. Of love, abiding love, it will be telling, though too weak a wash of crimson colors it to make it wholly credible. There is something urgent I have to say to you, and you alone, but it must wait while I drink in the joy of your approach, perhaps for the last time. And so, with fear in my heart, I drag it out and keep on talking, for I dare not stop. Listen while I talk on against time. It will not be for long. I have forgot, and yet I see clearly enough something central to the sky which ranges round it. An odor springs from it, a sweetest odor, honeysuckle. And now there comes the buzzing of a bee and a whole flood of sister memories. Only give me time to recall them before I shall speak out. Give me time. You understand I had to meet you after the event and have still to meet you. Love, to which you too shall bow along with me. A flower, a weakest flower shall be our trust, and not because we are too feeble to do otherwise, but because at the height of my power, I risked what I had to do, therefore to prove that we love each other, while my very bones sweated that I could not cry to you in the act. Of asphodel, that greeny flower, I come, my sweet, to sing to you. My heart rouses, thinking to bring you news of something that concerns you and concerns many men. Look at what passes for the new. You will not find it there, but in despised poems. It is difficult to get the news from poems, yet men die miserably every day for lack of what is found there. Hear me out, for I too am concerned, and every man who wants to die at peace in his bed besides. Well, there's more of that great poem, and I commend it to you. Thank you for, Anne, for choosing Ezra Pound. I thought I would have to apologize for choosing Ezra Pound, but I don't now, and I will read a late Ezra Pound poem instead. This is one of the very last cantos, 116. Came Neptunus, his mind leaping like dolphins. These concepts the human mind has attained to make cosmos, to achieve the possible, moose wrecked for an error. But the record, the palimpsest, a little light in great darkness. Cuniculi, an old crank dead in Virginia, unprepared young burdened with records, the vision of the Madonna above the cigar butts, and over the portal, have made a mess of laws, Justinians, a tangle of works unfinished. I have brought the great ball of crystal. Who can lift it? Can you enter the great acorn of light? But the beauty is not the madness, though my errors and wrecks be about me, and I am not a demigod. I cannot make it cohere. If love be not in the house, there is nothing. The voice of famine unheard. How came beauty against this blackness, twice beauty under the elms, to be saved by squirrels and blue jays? Ariadne, Disney against the metaphysicals, and Laforgue more than they thought in him. And I have learned more from Jules Laforgue since then, deeps in him, and Linnaeus. But about that terzo, third heaven, that Venere, again is all paradiso, a nice quiet paradise over the shambles, and some climbing before the takeoff. To see again, the verb is see, not walk on, i.e., it coheres all right, even if my notes do not cohere. Many errors, a little rightness, to excuse his hell and my paradiso. But to affirm the gold thread in the pattern, Torcello, to confess wrong without losing rightness, charity I have had sometimes, I cannot make it flow through. A little light, like a rush light, to lead back to splendor. And I'll close, the good Ezra said, I am not a demigod, so I thought I would close with a little bit of a speaker who is a demigod. I'm talking about Gunslinger, the great epic poem written by my old teacher, Ed Dorn. This is Slinger talking. What does the foregoing mean? I asked. Mean? My gunslinger laughed. Mean? Questioner, you got some strange obsessions. You want to know what something means after you've seen it, after you've been there, or were you out during that time? No? And you want some reason. How fast are you, by the way? No local offense asking that, is there? No. I like you, mi nuevo amigo. For a mortal, you're exceptional. How fast are you? Oh, average fast, I suppose, or maybe a little more than average fast, I ventured, which means you got a draw. Well, yes. Consider the gunslinger taking the telescope from the turned-on horse. Please don't hold my shortcoming against me, oh gunslinger, and may I inquire of you? Inquire, he breathed. Don't do that. Well, then, may I? No, I wouldn't do that either. How is it then? How can such speed be? You make the air dark with the beauty of your speed, gunslinger. The air separates and reunites as if lightning had cut past, leaving behind a simple experience. How can such aching speed be? Are you further a god or semi-deus and therefore mortal? First things first, he reflected in the slit of his eyes. Your attempt is close, but let me warn you, never be close. A mathematician from Casper, Wyoming years ago taught me that to eliminate the draw permits an unmatchable speed, a syzygy which hangs tight just back of the curtain of the reality theater down the street. Speed is not necessarily fast. Bullets are not necessarily specific. When the act is so self-contained and so dazzling in itself, the target then can disappear in the heated tension, which is an area between here and formerly. In some parts of the Western world, men have mistakenly called that phenomenology. You mean I encourage there is no difference between appearance and reality, he broke in? I never mean. Remember, that's a mortal sin, and difference I have no sense of. That might be your sin. Furthermore, don't attempt to burden me with your encouragement, because, to go on to your second question, I am un semidios. Thank you all. I would like to introduce our next reader now, screenwriter, James Jeremias.
Hello. I'm reading the first poem by Langston Hughes called Theme for English B. The instructor said, "Go home and write a page tonight, and let that page come out of you. Then it will be true." I wonder if it's that simple. I am 22, colored, born in Winston-Salem. I went to school there, then Durham, then here to the college on the hill above Harlem. I am the only colored student in my class. The steps from the hill lead down into Harlem through a park. Then I cross St. Nicholas, 8th Avenue, 7th, and I come to the Y, the Harlem Branch Y, where I take the elevator up to my room, sit down, and write this page. It's not easy to know what is true for you or me at 22, my age. But I guess I'm what I feel and see and hear. Harlem, I hear you. Hear you, hear me. We two, you, me, talk on this page. I hear New York too. Me, who? Well, I like to eat, sleep, drink, and be in love. I like to work, read, learn, and understand life. I like a pipe for a Christmas present, or records, Bessie, Bop, or Bach. I guess being colored doesn't make me not like the same things other folks like who are other races. So will my page be colored that I write? Being me, it will not be white, but it will be a part of you, instructor. You are white, yet a part of me, as I am a part of you. That's American. Sometimes perhaps you don't want to be a part of me, nor do I often want to be a part of you. But we are. That's true. As I learn from you, I guess you learn from me, although you're older and white and somewhat more free. This is my page for English B. And my next one was from a poet we've heard earlier, William Carlos Williams. I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox, and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me, they were delicious, so sweet and so cold. And this one is Hay is for Horses. He had driven half the night, far from down San Joaquin, through Mariposa, up the dangerous mountain roads, and pulled in at 8 a.m. with his big truckload of hay behind the barn. With winch, ropes, and hooks, we stacked the bales up clean to splintery redwood rafters, high in the dark, flecks of alfalfa whirling through shingle cracks of light, itch of hay dust in the sweaty shirt and shoes. At lunchtime, under black oak, out in the hot corral, the old mare nosing lunch pails, grasshoppers crackling in the weeds. I'm 68, he said. I first bucked hay when I was 17. I thought that day I started, I sure would hate to do this all my life. And damn it, that's just what I've gone and done. By Gary Snyder. And the last one, stopping by the woods on a snowy evening. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep. Thanks, Harry. This was a pleasure.
Thank you all for such a radiant, learned, musical reading of great poetry. I love your choices and readings. What an education and a pleasure. I mean, these are, Ezra Pound, Margaret Atwood, Joy Harjo, Gary Snyder, Lewis Carroll. The beat goes on. I don't see Ken Funsten here. If you're around, Ken, please join us. I love your reading.
He's here.
There he is.
Oh, there you are, right in front of my eyes. Sorry, I got caught up in the.
I don't look like what I used to look like.
Well, you read beautifully, but thank you all. It was just, it was like a class in great poetry by learned people, actors, writers, poets, singers. So, what a pleasure. We have a few minutes left, so why don't we go around the room and we'll start with Corinne, and then we go to Ken and Carrie-Lynn, Joe, and James, and talk a little bit about what you heard, the poetry you heard, you read, and the readings. Corinne?
Well, I love it when we all read our favorite poems. And so, because they seem to be read with such enthusiasm. When people seem to read them knowing why they are reading them. And so many of the ones that you chose are also poems that I looked at as my favorite. Many of these poets are all of our favorites. I love the Langston Hughes that was last read. And certainly that's the other thing that happens here. You like a poem, you like it, and then another group of poetry comes out, and you're afraid, what was that one I liked early on? But I remember the Langston Hughes so very clearly because it was closest to me, and I liked hearing Margaret Atwood. Thank you, and I had Wild Geese ready to read, so. I loved your reading of it. It's wonderful when you've been reading something and studying something to have someone else read it. It's like a whole new revelation.
Ken?
Yeah, it's a wonderful hour to listen to the music of the words, and it's remarkable to. We had Ezra Pound practically his first poem and practically his last poem.
Yeah,
and. I know what Joe said when he said he couldn't read all of Esquivel, that greeny flower, because, I looked at some poems too. I said, no, I can't read that whole thing. That'll go 9 minutes. But this is it's so much fun. And it's so, the way that Robert Frost kept popping up too, it just shows you that even things written 100 years ago, if they were written in plain language and from the heart, that we're people, we're all people. We've all suffered. Harry and I have both lost spouses. Other people have actually had worse happen to them. So it's something to keep in mind sometimes. Hard to imagine, but we're all people, and the music brings it out, the music of the words.
Carrie-Lynn, you read so beautifully. Thank you for joining us for the first time. What would you like to say?
Well, first of all, thank you to you, Harry, for inviting me on. This was such a truly magical hour. It's been a long time since I've had an hour to sit and listen to such beautiful poetry. And I think, as a few of us have mentioned, there seems to be some running themes, and none of us, talked about which poems we were bringing today. And yet somehow there seemed to be just a few threads tying them all together. But I truly love the sound, just being able to listen to how everyone connects to the words on the page. And it does lift right off. And to your point, Corinne, I think we hear them so differently at different points in our lives, which is why I tend to keep going back to some poems that either were thrust upon me in school and I had to pick it apart and didn't really find the joy in that until years later when I connected to the actual words. And that's what this whole hour felt like for me, just a gift and connection. So thank you so much.
Joe?
Yeah, it's a great pleasure to hear all of these poems that are part of me. Besides the ones that I read, I mean, a lot of what you all chose were just echoes that reverberate constantly. You will not get the news except in despised poems, said William Carlos Williams. And I want to thank Ken as well for reminding me of my LA friends more than 50 years ago. I've not had occasion to think about Kate Braverman or Jack Grapes, for that matter, for a long time. And so that was a pleasure to hear their names again and remember that scene in Beyond Baroque when I was leading the workshop for a brief period of time. Harry, thank you for this.
Well, Joe, thank you too for reading Cantos 116. I think there was a line in there, if love be not in the house, it is nothing, something like that. And that's certainly true. And I appreciate your scholarship. Our next one to speak, James, welcome to the show. James made his living as a grip, and he, as you may know, was a screenwriter of one of the great movies, Lost Boys. Here's James Jeremias.
Harry, well, thanks for inviting me. This is a wonderful group of people. Maybe someday soon I'll get to meet you all. But this has been quite an experience, getting to share things that are close to our hearts and come together like this. Harry, I appreciate this. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And, it's great to listen. What Carrie said, the magical hour. This is sacred for me. I mean, we all have a wide variety of experiences and work in our lives, and we all come together. Corinne started working as an actor 1949, so she's worked for over 70 years. And, right out of college, classical theater, then TV and nightclub and movies and commercials. And, we could go on for each one of you, your careers. And so you've all just blessed this place. What else would you like to say? Ken, what would you like to say about this? You're always such a keen observer of poetry.
Well, Harry, just to show I watched the program, I didn't prepare an answer to that question. I prepared an answer to the question of when did you write your first poem? And I had to think about that. And I remember writing my first poem in 5th grade about it rhymed quatrains about a dog who was a detective. And I wish I still had a copy of it, but I don't. But that was, what else do other people have to say?
The Lewis Carroll was a good shot. I really appreciated that.
Beautiful soup.
And Joe, why don't you say a little something up there? You're up in Oregon now these days, right?
Yes, Portland.
What else would you like to say about what you heard from the poets, the poetry? I know you've got a great ear.
The two Frost poems were the ones that reverberated for me. And sometimes I think I've moved past Robert Frost, but he was so central to one's understanding of especially American poetry that it was just kind of chilling to hear those familiar words again. It was just good for the heart.
Well, Robert Frost, as you know, was not only well received critically, but he was a bestseller, Book of the Month Club. And that's very rare for a poet to be a bestseller and also be well received by the critics. And then another thing he said, as you may know, he said it's not just the subject matter, but it's what you do with the story, what you do with the subject matter that makes it art. And so he does stay around with us. So this has really been just a marvelous reading. I love all of your readings, and thank you very much for blessing this show. It certainly has uplifted me, and I'm sure our viewers too. So thank you once again, Corinne Conley, Ken Funsten, Carrie-Lynn Neales, Joe Safdie, James Jeremias, and our next reading will be next Tuesday. We have two terrific poets with us, Jimmy Vega and Giovanni Alonzi. And here's our great director, Jennifer Clymer.
Harry, Harry, thank you so much. This was a wonderful hour. Thank all of you for joining us. Please come on back next week. And Harry, you have these shows planned out long in advance, but I know that you also are open to suggestions. So if you're reading today and have ideas for future shows, please reach out to Harry.
Thank you.